This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, welcome to CTC. I'm Lloyd Patterson. For most of us, our home is the biggest money decision we'll ever make. Should I buy? Should I rent for a while or sell? So many questions made all the tougher by the volatility in today's market. Well, the news is good and bad, really statewide on home sales. They were up over a year ago, but foreclosures remain a big problem, up more than 40%. Well, where is it all heading? Have we hit the bottom? Let's ask our experts tonight. We have a lot of years of experience in the field. M. Weiner, longtime local agent with Prudential Florida Realty, serves as president of the Pensacola Association of Realtors, covering Escambia and Santa Rosa counties, and she serves on several statewide Realtor Association committees as well. Anita Williams is the president of the Emerald Coast Association of Realtors, covering Okaloosa and Walton counties. She is the broker and president of the Realty firm based in Destin, so she knows her way around beach and vacation real estate. Tom Bell represents the commercial side of the real estate field. He is the vice president of the largest firm of its kind in Northwest Florida, NAI Halford, where he works with many large regional and national companies that are looking for space. And Al Mueller is the man with the numbers. He heads Pensacola-based Metro Market Trends, where he keeps track of just that: what's selling, who's buying, what's getting foreclosed. We welcome all of you to the program tonight here, CTC. Glad you could join us. It's a tough subject. Let's start with the question I really hear most often is, have we hit the bottom? Al Mueller.
I think it's a little early to be calling a bottom at this point, but the good news is for the first time in 3 years, we're actually beginning to see some good numbers show up in our data. And I think the best way to characterize what we're seeing is early signs of stabilization in the market. And that's a good thing.
Green shoots, as we hear it called.
That would be another way to put it.
In Washington these days. Anita Williams, how about you? Do you have the same view? Are we at the bottom?
I have to agree. I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't think anybody really has a crystal ball, but we do see some stabilization of the marketplace in Destin and Fort Walton Beach.
Very good. Tom Bell is a commercial guy. What's your sense on this?
Commercial really didn't feel the pinch of the recession until 2008, and we're still feeling it in 2009, and they always follow residential out of a recession, so it will be later than residential comes out. And just recently I saw a report about rentals going up, leasing going up. That is a sign that we're close to the bottom, but it'll be a while.
Okay. And M. Weiner, you know your way around home sales pretty well. You've been in the association for a long time. Do you have a feeling that the bottom is, if not here, is close?
I do think it's close. I think we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I agree with Al. We may have a little to go, but there is hope.
All right. Someone said one time that when you're falling down a dark mine shaft, you're not always sure where the bottom is going to be, but there comes a point where how much lower could it really go? How much more could home prices really fall? Because aren't you seeing sales activity at some level, some price points homes are selling?
Yes, that is true. The first-time home buyers are now out shopping, so there's a segment of the inventory that we have that will go to them. So that is big hope for us.
What's selling in Destin, Anita?
Well, actually, we have quite a few foreclosures, short sales, just about everything under $200,000, $250,000. And of course, Destin and Fort Walton have a mix of condos, single-family residential, townhomes.
Are foreclosures and short sales, is that a good way to pick up a deal, or are there a lot of pitfalls with that kind of purchase that people should be aware of?
Well, I think you really have to be a smart shopper when you go out and purchase one of these. And it's not always the best deal. Sometimes a piece of property that's on the market that is in pristine condition will be just as good a buy for the buyer as one that is a foreclosure or a bank-owned property. So it depends on that buyer.
All right. Anita?
I agree. And you have to be very smart. Today's buyer is very smart, market smart. Of course, they use a realtor to purchase those properties and do their homework before they do the decision to buy that home.
All right, let's take a look at some of the numbers, and we can thank Metro Market Trends, Al Muller's organization, for this. Start with sales of single-family homes in Escambia County. Here are the numbers through June 2009, 1,591 sales. Through June 2008, 1,997 sales. Now that shows it's down 20% year over year, but 1,500, nearly 1,600 homes, that's quite a few homes to sell, isn't it, Al?
Well, it is, but I believe, if I remember correctly, June over June, we weren't down 20%, we're only down 10%, and I believe June over June is the first time in 3 years we've seen condo resales actually pick up. And we have been, we have been looking at the numbers in detail more than we ever have over the last few months, looking for signs that things are beginning to turn. And to be honest, we thought we'd see them in April, we didn't. We thought we'd see them in May, and we didn't. But June numbers in all of the counties, we've seen indications that things are picking up. And it's just, again, I would characterize it as early signs, but the indications are there.
Let's take a look at some other counties because we really focus on 4 counties here on WSRE Public Television. Santa Rosa County home sales through June 2009, about just over 1,100. Through June 2008, 1,300. So down 13%. That's Santa Rosa County. Comments, M?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that every county is seeing things, the market is improving for us. And Santa Rosa County is seeing an improvement as well as Escambia County.
Okay, how about let's take a look at Okaloosa County and see what happened there. Through June, and this is all the months through June 2009, 1,145 sales. And in Okaloosa through June of a year ago, 1,300, down 12%. Once again, thanks to Metro Market Trends and Al Muller for providing these numbers. Anita, comment on Okaloosa sales.
Well, again, Okaloosa is a very large county. And we did have a small time there. We're still having some lending challenges as far as getting loans to go through. So it's taken a little bit more time. So I would probably say that might lend to that percentage change.
All right, and then one other county, Walton County, which would be the smallest of the counties in Northwest Florida that we cover, and you had about 600 home sales through June of 2009 and about 700 through June of 2008, down about 13%. But here again, while the sales are down, there's still a lot of homes being sold in Walton County.
Yes, I mean, there are. And I think people have put their faith back in the marketplace, and they're actually starting to look. And I think a lot of it has to do with the first-time buyer's home credit. The tax credit is huge, and the more public awareness we have for that, a lot of people still don't know about the tax credit. And we've been making great strides to try to get the news out.
Okay, and I have some full screens that I'll show on that topic, but there's just tons of information available on this $8,000 credit. But first of all, who can qualify? Em, who can take advantage of this?
A first-time home buyer is qualified as someone who has not owned a home in the last 3 years. So that puts a lot more people in the market for the $8,000 tax credit than most people believe. And I think that's the biggest thing, Anita, that people do not understand, that you can't have owned a home,
Yes.
but not in the last 3 years.
You can't have owned a home and $8,000, and a tax credit is a better deal than a tax deduction. People should be aware of that
Right.
too.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
$8,000 credit is actually like, if you paid $8,000 in federal taxes, you would be getting that back.
Right.
Okay.
And also, what a lot of people don't know is that in the state of Florida, we have the capability now to actually have, well, it's like a bridge loan almost, to help with closing costs for the first-time home buyers. But the first-time home buyers need to understand also that as of right now, they have to close by November 30th of this year in order to be able to take advantage of that.
Does close mean that's where they go to the title
Yes.
place and they sign all the
Yes.
papers? Does it mean they have to have moved into the house? Could the house not be finished? Or do you only get title when the home is finished?
You will have to be closed on the property. You will have to be the owner.
Okay. Could you be the owner of a place that you want to build or it will be under construction?
I think that there is I would have to do more research on that, but I think there is capability for that,
All right.
depending on the time frame.
Okay, as we take a look at some of the homes that are for sale in Northwest Florida right now, are there as many homes on the market today as there were 6 months ago, a year ago, Al?
I don't know the exact numbers. I think there's been some slight reduction in inventory. I believe inventories overall may be down just a tad, but I believe the most pertinent thing about the market that we're dealing with today as compared to, say, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, is that the homes on the market today are simply much more affordable. Prices are such that more people can afford the homes, and there's more inventory of homes available that are in what I consider affordable price ranges. One of the things we've seen in our data that's changed dramatically over the last few years is that the number of homes, say in the 300,000 and above price range, sales in that price range have dropped significantly, whereas sales in what I would consider more affordable homes, while they've declined, they've not declined anywhere near as much as the more higher-end homes.
Now, who are these buyers? Are they people who are transferred in from out of town and they've got a family, they got kids they have to get in school, so they really are compelled to buy? Or are they people who are trying to move up? What's the profile of the buyer of this 200,000 below and below home?
I think that's a mix. We have a lot of people who are relocating here and they must buy. We do have some people who live here who are now moving up or moving down. So it's a mix of buyers. And of course there's the first-time home buyer.
Okay, as we take a spin through this neighborhood, I want to ask Tom Bell, because he knows his way around the commercial side. Everybody has to notice, Tom, as you drive through Northwest Florida, strip malls and even big malls, there's a lot of retail space available. It seems to me anyway. I could be wrong, but it just seems...
You're correct. There is
Okay.
a lot of space available in retail malls. There's a lot of office space available also.
Is it overbuilt here? Is this area...
Well, it wasn't overbuilt on the commercial side. It's just that a lot of the tenants that were making a good business before the recession have closed down, and that's where the dark centers are coming from.
Okay.
And
Is this driving down rents?
it's driving down rents. We look at ours on a per square foot basis, and a typical strip mall might charge $18 a square foot, where now it's down to $12, $13 a square foot.
Wow, because the owners want to get somebody in there getting...
They've got to get somebody in there because they've got to pay their note, and it's like that for the office and the retail. Warehousing, the same thing. They're becoming dark also.
Okay. If you just joined us, this is CTC. You're watching on public television, WSRE, the Gulf Coast. I'm Lloyd Patterson, and tonight we have a good mix of people who really know the real estate field. Perhaps you've been thinking about buying a place, or you just want to know, why is the neighbor's place not sold? Is this a good time? What's the deal on this $8,000 tax credit? These are the kinds of things that we want to cover with this group tonight. We're glad that you joined us. Let me ask you all a kind of a question about, I guess, home buying philosophy. There was some criticism in the last 10, 12 years that government policy was to try to make everybody in America a homeowner, to have the American dream, that everybody ought to own a house. But, first of all, is that true? Should everybody strive to own a house? And secondly, what was the impact of that kind of government policy? Just jump in here, anybody
Okay,
who wants to.
I'll do that.
Okay.
I think, well, my opinion personally about that is, I think it's based on, I learned this from a first-time homebuyers class that I was privileged to be involved in. It's a want or it's a need. You know, a lot of people want things, but that doesn't mean they're going to be able to afford that. And they need to, you know, stick within their means when they go to purchase that first home. And not everybody was maybe meant to purchase what they purchased in the last 10 years. There were a lot of investors in the marketplace too that decided that they wanted to try to make some money, you know, very quickly. And unfortunately, that's kind of put us where we are today, I think.
Okay. What about you? Do you think that we tried to get too many people into houses who didn't really have the wherewithal to be in a house?
I think so many people got into a home that was not truly qualified to be in that home, and that was the big problem, Lloyd. They were not qualified for it. They had the want, but they did not have the way.
Okay, and where did that lead us, do you think?
It led us to where we are today, with people that cannot make their home payment.
And there were so many, another thing that we hear criticized a lot are these no interest, nothing down loans, low interest rates, even called, I've heard them called liar's loans. They were writing loans to just about anybody who could sit up in a chair and sign their name. Maybe that's harsh, but was that true?
I go back to, it's a want and it's a need. I mean, when people purchase their home, I mean, that's the biggest single investment they'll probably ever make in their entire life. And they need to, going in, they need to know what they're qualified for and what they can afford. And if they can't, then they need to step back and wait.
But who's telling them what they're qualified for and what they can afford? If they've got a mortgage broker saying, you can get this $350,000 house,
Right.
isn't that?
Well, if somebody was telling, well, yeah, I mean, I understand that part. If somebody was telling them that they could, you know, even though they couldn't, then that's why we are here where we are today.
I think you saw some mortgage bankers doing what you said, telling them they could afford it when they really couldn't. You also, and I think somebody mentioned it earlier, a lot of people were flipping houses when they purchased them. They would purchase quite a few houses, and that worked for a while until the subprime issue hit us, and then the market went out, and everybody all of a sudden was left with all of these houses that they were trying to flip, and they couldn't do it.
Al Muller, you have thoughts on this topic? Are the mortgage people the bad guys?
Well, obviously, if there was no one there to lend the money, then we wouldn't have gotten into the bubble that we did. I believe it's a situation where the government started out encouraging home ownership, and it's hard to be against the government encouraging or enabling people who should own a home to own a home. We went way past that. As you said, we went to unwise lending. We got into frenzied speculation. I mean, we all know basically, what occurred. I think what a lot of people don't really grasp today is that we truly had a bubble, and that bubble burst in '06, and for the last 3 years we've been living with the results of a burst housing bubble. The good news is that I heard somebody say last week, things are definitely getting less bad. I mean, that's the way they put it. And I characterize it as saying, we're seeing the early stages of the market beginning to stabilize. But it's going to take a while to work through where we are. And the biggest issue I see facing the market right now is the foreclosure situation. To put it in a nutshell, we've got more houses going into foreclosure than we have houses being sold. And that just means we've still got work to do as far as the market adjusting.
And what does that mean to home sales? What's that mean if I own a house, if there are a lot more foreclosures to come?
You're going to have less buyers that are going to be looking at your home. When we have so many on the market, then that limits your exposure if you have a home out there on the market.
Okay. I really appreciate you coming in and being on this program, and I hate to put you on any of you on the spot, but as you look at this bubble that the whole country is really paying the consequences of, do you have any self-criticism? Does the real estate people say, I shouldn't have sold that. We shouldn't have sold that house to those people. They were obviously boneheads and couldn't make the payments. I mean, do you ever look at your own role in this, or do you think that it's all on the fly-by-night mortgage lenders?
Can I address that first?
Sure.
I think that
I don't think anybody's going to fight you over it.
well, I mean, looking back, it's easy to see what went wrong, but during the build-up to the bubble, which started back in 2001 and ran through '06, one of the things that was going on and that enabled the reckless lending and it enabled people to buy more home than they really could afford was that the prices for homes just kept going up. And if you were a mortgage lender and you were lending money to someone and you thought, well, they may have a hard time paying this back, you were always thinking, well, if they can't and I foreclose on the house is always worth more. So there was justification for making that loan, because if you're a lender, you feel like the house is going to be worth more in 6 months even if I take it back.
So it was a rational business decision from their point of view.
I would say it seemed like a rational business decision at the time, but the assumption that real estate prices would always go up and never go down, in retrospect, was obviously a faulty assumption. But I would say some of the the best and brightest people in these lending institutions and on Wall Street really did believe that prices would always go up and never come down. And that was basically the foundation of everything.
Anita?
I wouldn't say that there's one person to blame or one area of industry to blame. I think everybody got caught up in the moment and didn't really think about tomorrow at that point in time. I think about it a lot because, I mean, everybody was happy. Buyers were, buying, sellers were selling, and I mean, that's why everything was great. I don't really think you can blame one industry for that.
Okay. Tom, your point of view on this?
Well, commercial really didn't go the same way that residential did. But because of what happened to residential and because of the subprime fiasco and because of the recession, commercial wasn't overbuilt, but a lot of the businesses that were either leasing or had purchased, some of them just couldn't make it, and they still aren't. And so it wasn't the same issues as theirs, but we were dragged down by it.
Okay. Em?
I agree with Al. We've always believed that real estate values would continue to go up. When the loans were made, everyone believed that that would happen. It simply did not. So it's trying to put blame on someone, that's hard to do.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, it wasn't like, I think you're right, there were a whole lot of people who saw their friends, their neighbors making, hey, they put down $5,000 on a house over in Milton, and they turned around, sold it before it was built, and they made $50,000. Well, who can resist that easy money? It's just someplace the door slammed shut on it, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Okay, well, we only have very short time left. I want to put up these addresses for information about the $8,000 federal tax credit. And if you have not owned a home in the past 3 years, this is something you can take advantage of. And if we don't have that full screen, okay, that'll be up in just a minute. There's a lot of good information out there. And I think that Em and Anita and their agencies would be more than happy to answer any questions you have on this topic. Em Weiner with Prudential, appreciate your being here.
Thank you, Lord.
Tom Bell, NAI Halford, good luck to you in that business. And of course, Anita with Okaloosa and Walton Realtors Association. Al Mueller, thanks again for the great information that you provided to us and for your insights on the market. And we thank you all for being here tonight. Gosh, what a subject. There's just so many questions, so many things that we wanted to ask that we didn't get to. But join us next time here on CTC. I'm Lloyd Patterson for WSRE. Thanks for watching.